designers need to learn how to code. So what do you think about the opposite? Do engineers need to learn how to design?
Yeah, I think so. I think engineers should, but not really like deep into, more like on the surface level, because you would get to, understand how user experience works, and you also get to, address like the pain points of the user. So if you have like a design mindset, I feel like good designers make good developers, and good developers also make good designers. So yeah, just on the surface, it's actually really important.
That's awesome to hear. It mirrors what the other side is saying as well too. I think a lot of designers have a very similar mindset where they're like, you don't need to know how to build an app from start to finish, but you
Yeah,
should know like the constraints and things that they're working with, so you don't send them like these impossible designs that can't actually be made.
yeah, that's another thing. That's another thing.
Awesome. Well, we are officially live on all the platforms. So I want to thank you so much for coming on. Welcome to our show. This is the Design Annotation Live, where we chat with people who are building and maintaining and making beautiful products. And today we have with us Chisom. Chisom, if you want to tell us who you are, what you do, we'd love to get to know you.
Sorry, I get dramatic sometimes when I'm in front of the camera. Okay, so my name is Chisom. Really happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me, Nico. I am a couple of things. Firstly, I am a software engineer. I used to work at Microsoft. I don't anymore. And I started my career in software engineering as an Android developer. I used to like develop like small basic Android applications. And I transitioned to software engineering full time at Microsoft, but I started doing things around big data, which
Okay.
was a huge shift from Android development. So yeah, pretty exciting transition. And I'm also a published author. I have a book titled, it's a career book that helps engineers land jobs at, international tech company, just like I did. And I have another book coming up as well around,
Okay.
data engineering. I'm still writing it, it's kicking my ass, but
Sending you all of the luck in the world. I can't even imagine how stressful that would
thank
be.
you.
So yeah, congratulations too on just the launch of your first book. I did see it. I did check it out. So I've seen it before. I hope that everybody listening can also check it out too if they're interested
Yeah.
in expanding their career there too. That's a fantastic resource that you provided. So congratulations on getting that up and running. I want to learn a little bit more too about who you are and what you're doing. So what does your typical day to day look like these days?
So I'm currently fun employed. I'm not actually working at the moment, but okay, let me just take it back a bit to for the sake of the viewers to how my day in the life was at Microsoft.
Sure.
So I was running like a hybrid work balance. I go to the office like twice a week or once a week, depending, and I just work from home. So what I do is I just attend stand up with my managers, my colleagues, to talk about what I'm doing, what I did, issues that I'm having. Just share with the team and get feedback from like the things I've been able to do. So I go by a to-do list, because I feel like if you
Mm,
don't plan your day is going to plan itself for you. So you want to make sure that you're taking like charge of your day so
yeah.
that you get the most done and you're most productive. So I have like a to-do list. I have PRs to push, meetings to have, friends to, chat up with and all of that. So that's for the remote working like kind of setup. But when I'm in the office, it's a little bit different, because I'm with my colleagues, we talk, we collaborate more, we have lunch together, play games together. So it's like a mix of different things, but basically I work with big data a lot. I was literally just introduced to big data 2 years ago, and it's more around building data platforms or data infrastructure for teams. So
Okay.
let's say a particular team at Microsoft, you are going to be the one managing that data platform for the company. So you're addressing data needs from different teams. You're making sure that your pipelines are running correctly, and making sure that your data is of good quality, is accurate, and all of that. Then you're also, setting up infrastructure as the need arises. So yeah, a lot of numbers, a lot of, making sure that things are very correct, and making sure that you're not communicating the wrong data to stakeholders or to managers. So yeah, I think the balance is really good. Probably after that, go to the gym, watch Netflix, read a book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Read a book and write your book. Yeah. You're like, I'm on both ends, both ends. That's awesome. I really appreciate you sharing that too, and I hope that that's helpful too for some new career folks who are looking into like what could this actually look like for me too. I think the
Yeah.
clarity into that's always very important. So thank you for sharing that. And this might be a little bit of a sneak peek for your book. But what has your journey looked like? Like what from the beginning? How did you get involved with big tech? Like, what do you have any advice for people? I'd love to get to know that from you too.
Um, to big tech, I think I didn't really think I would get into it this early in my career.
Sure.
I know when I was in uni, that was in 2020. I would tell my mom that, oh, I'll most likely work for a big tech company when I have like 6 years of experience. So
Mm,
my mind wasn't really that open to know that, okay, you can actually get this thing earlier. But that changed when I saw, people that actually achieved these things early in their career, and I was like, oh, if they can do it this early, then I think I have a chance to do it as well. So I started as an Android developer. I have an application on Google Play. It has like 30k downloads now, which I'm
wow.
really proud of. So after building that app, I felt very confident in my skills. I felt like, not like I could rule the world, but I felt really proud. Like, oh, I brought something to life. People
Yeah.
have it on their devices all over the world and they're using it. So it gave me like the confidence that I didn't have prior to building the app. And so after college or university, as we call it here, I was looking for like the next place where can I put in these skills. And I noticed that the companies that I applied to, they weren't really looking for someone that didn't really have experience like me. So yeah, you built an app. What next? You don't have work experience, and we need that. So I think I focused on big tech because big tech usually has like this graduate programs where you can join as a student or internship. So that was something that was really good for me, and I'm really happy that I figured that out on time. I feel like anybody on this call, if you have someone that's younger than you that's still in college, you should encourage the person to go for these opportunities early on so that they don't miss it. And joining Microsoft as a new grad, I was like a junior like software engineer. I just got out of school, and it was a huge shift from uni to learning how to do data structures and algorithms to actually working on like legacy code base, writing C++, something I've never done before.
Yeah.
So it was a really huge shift. And so, back to your question about like the advice I would have for people, I would say dream as big as you can, regardless of where you're working now. If you already have dreams of working in a big tech company, then I feel you deserve to work for a big tech company because at the end of the day, it's not everybody that wants to really. So if you have like the skills that you have now, you have your experiences, try to dream big as much as you can. Try to get mentors that working in companies that you admire, and try to learn from them at the end of the day. So some basic skills, what I think what confused me was that I felt like needed to know everything before joining
Mm,
the company, but I didn't even know up to 10%. But when I joined, I just gradually grew from becoming from like the little Chisom that was in school to like an actual software engineer that was solving problems. So there are a couple of things you're going to learn on the job, and that's fine. So you don't really need to know everything.
that's awesome. Fantastic advice too, because I think so often that barrier to entry seems so big to people, and they're like, "I could never do that. I can't. That's not for me. Maybe somebody else." But it's like, why not you? I love that too. Have confidence in yourself. You can do it. Apply your skills. Get into the right programs, like you said too. And I
Yeah,
assume too, this is something what you cover in your book as well too, of like how to get into it.
yeah, the first book. Yeah, the first book, not the
Awesome.
second.
Ooh, okay, a little sneak peek for the second one, maybe some intrigue, some mystery there. I'm very excited for that too. So thank you very much for sharing. I hope that that's helpful for everybody listening, and I think it's fantastic advice too. So thank you very much for sharing that, and hopefully inspiring some new people to take steps into that.
Yeah.
I also too, I wanted to know like about your inspiration for all this because I know that you said not many people want to work in big tech. Who or what inspires you to come back to the field day after day?
I think it's the ability to create. I see myself as a creative, and I know when people talk about creative, they talk about people in art, people in music. I mean, they're creatives too, but I feel like software engineers, designers are also creatives. I love doing things like cooking, for instance. Cooking is an art, right? Sorry, cooking is an art. Making up your face, like I just did, is an art.
Hmm.
Um, Dressing up, fashion is an art, and I feel like being an engineer doesn't make you less of an artist. The ability to think of something and bring it to life. So I think what inspired me was the first app I built. Right, I think the very first time I ran the application on my phone, and I tried it on my dad's phone and it was looking so beautiful. I tried it on my mom's phone, it was looking so beautiful. So in my head, I'm like, oh, if people actually install this app, this is exactly what they'll be seeing. And I just felt like a creator. I felt like I actually built this, added color to it, and brought it to life. So I think that was one thing that inspired me. And moving over to big tech, you're seeing your products launch and you're seeing it on billions of devices. I specifically worked on in the Windows engineering team. So when things or products are launched on Windows, you can see it on your friend's laptop or you can see it on your mom's laptop. So it's actually a very fulfilling and very satisfying feeling. So one inspiration is the ability to think of something like as a tech professional now, you can think of an application and actually build it. And even if you can't build it on your own, you can call other people to collaborate with you and give it 6 months, that thing is in the market and people are using it. So yeah, it makes me feel very powerful and creative. So that's the inspiration.
That's awesome to know. Do you still have it in some like, do you still have it accessible, your very first one that you did? Do you have it on your phone or is it like somewhere on your computer or
Yeah, it's on my phone, but I haven't launched the iOS version yet.
okay,
It's still Android. Because I was learning Android, I didn't
sure.
really go into like iOS development, but hopefully one day I would release the iOS version.
That's awesome. What do you do? Let us know. We would love to see it and to check it out. That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's such a cool inspiration to have something to look back on. So concrete too. I think that rings true for so many people. Hopefully listening to even whether you're a designer, a developer. The first thing that you're able to get live, I think, is a really big accomplishment. So that's amazing. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm excited to know too more about like the unique things that come with development for big tech. Because I know you've done your projects on your own versus working in this big environment with a lot of different
Very,
collaborators.
yeah,
Yeah. So
very.
what are the main unique differences, I guess, that come with that?
I think I'll mention 3 points: scalability, diversity, and quality.
Mm,
So for scalability, you're looking at you're not just building for yourself. For my application, at some point, I felt like I was building it for my mom, my dad, and my sister and myself
yeah.
until I tried running my app on someone's iPad, and you know that the resolution on someone's phone is different from what you have on an iPad because it's bigger.
Mm,
And the application kind of broke because it couldn't render some images on the iPad because iPad was bigger than, yeah. So I think that scalability side is what you have to or you must adapt to when you're building for big tech. You need to make sure that every single thing you're building scales. We're talking about devices, we're talking about size, we're talking about speed. You want to make sure that as users are coming into your product or they're signing up for your product, your app isn't breaking or your software isn't breaking.
yeah.
So it's not just for your teammates using that or testing that. You want to make sure that if the whole world decides to test whatever infrastructure that you have built can carry that. And I think that's the difference between learning on your own in the corner of your room and actually building for billions of users, because you need to learn how scaling works. You need to learn how distributed systems work, for instance. And second thing I mentioned was, okay, can I remember? Diversity. You're building for a lot of people. You're building for people in Asia, you're building for people in Africa, you're building for people in the US. So there are some language barriers that you're going to have. So you want to make
Mm,
sure that whatever that you're building or whatever you're shipping is diverse and you're not segregating a particular set of people out. I think there's this product Microsoft released that they still made it accessible for communities that don't have access to the internet, right? So that is you building with like diversity in mind. You want to include everybody. And I think that's one thing big tech is going to teach you, to love everybody. You're not going to say, they will need that or we'll build that later. No, you're actually going to build it now, and it just has to work. So that's the diverse part of things, what you would necessarily never think of when you're building on your own.
yeah.
I think the third thing is quality. Quality is very important because as much as you're working with legacy code base, you want to make sure that you're leaving behind code that other people can can, write, and other people can understand. So when you ship code, you're going to have a lot of code reviews, and before that code gets merged to like the main branch, trust me, it's gonna take a lot, right? So so you need to make sure that your code, you're writing clean code. Like this, there's this book called Clean Code. You want to make sure that you're writing quality code. So on your own, you can ship code that's very, very spaghetti written, right? And nobody might care. But when you're working for a big tech company, every single thing has to be clean. In fact, it's going to actually make you a very seasoned engineer
Mhm.
when you stay there for a very long time, because you're not going to be shipping things that don't look good. You're going to be shipping clean code that has like that follow like very good coding paradigms. So yeah, I think those are the top three things I personally learned, and there are a lot of other things that you can learn as well moving forward.
That's fantastic. I think the clean code one is so important too, because like you said, not only just for other people, but for yourself too. Like I've heard that from
Exactly.
on the design side too, where they're like, I opened up a file from 6 months ago and I had no idea where things were or what was going on here too. Uh,
Exactly.
yeah, so you got to future proof it for yourself. I
Exactly.
love that. I love that. One question I want to know from you too is the relationship between designers and developers. Of course, is something that we here at Zeppelin are very passionate about. How has the relationship between designers and developers evolved over time? Like from what you've seen, maybe from when you first started to now. Like, what are the main differences you've seen?
I think there was a time, I'm very active on social media, and I think there was a time designers always get into fights with developers. Like, say you're designing like a sneaker store or something, and maybe the sneaker has real animations, and the developer is like, how am I going to build this? How am I going to code this up? Or maybe the designer designs something and the developer um codes like a different thing altogether, right? So I mean, it's been interesting to watch, but I think a lot of things have evolved, and most companies are prioritizing something that's very important in the development process, which is collaboration.
Mm.
You want everybody on your team to collaborate. You want designers to have good relationships with developers. And at some point, like we mentioned earlier in the call, you want to make sure that, yeah, you're a designer, but you want to make sure that you're teaching, or you want to make sure that developers are learning a little bit of, design practices from you. And developers as well
Mhm.
also always want to make sure that designers are learning a little bit of coding practices from them. So I think it wasn't so smooth like back then, but I think now companies are prioritizing collaboration, collaborative tools as well, like Figma, that have like real time, collaborative styles that you can
Mhm.
work on things together, and you guys can just meet at the middle point. So yeah, I think the top word for me there is collaboration. It's evolved quite well, if you ask me.
I love that. And then one follow-up question, right, immediately after you finish here is where do you think the future is for that collaboration aspect? Do you think that it will be, more of like a blend of the two roles? Like we've seen a rise of the design engineer, folks who can do
Yeah.
both. Like, is that, do you think that that's where it'll go, or do you think it's headed somewhere entirely different?
No, I think that and any other thing that might come, but I think it will be more to still is to still fall back on collaborative efforts, right? And
Mhm.
there's some designers that also would also want to be engineers. I like I mentioned at the beginning of the call, designers make good engineers, and developers also make good designers. So I think seeing the blend of those two roles would be something that would be very colorful and to give you more like quality products. So yeah, the blend, the collaborative effort, and every other thing that might come after that, I'm good
Yeah.
with that.
It sounds like so many other people who we've talked to have a very similar outlook on that as well too, of like, as we're seeing tools evolve too with the implementation of AI in a lot of cases too,
Yeah,
we're starting
yeah.
to see, designers able to actually produce real working code. What do you think about AI within the product development world? Are you a fan of it? Are you one of the people who is against it? What are your thoughts on that?
I think I'm in the middle, but I'm a huge fan of innovation. I'm a huge fan of AI if used properly. And I feel like AI isn't coming to, replace, but it's coming to enhance. It's coming to assist. It's coming to make us more efficient, right? So AI is going to, for the design space, AI is going to do a lot, but it won't do as much as the creative human being, because as human beings, we cannot actually, at least for now, AI cannot actually replicate the amount of creativity we have as humans, the amount
Mhm.
of ideas we can produce, right? So for the design space, AI is good, but it's not actually going to replace like the design efforts. But for development, I think I use ChatGPT a lot. I use Claudia AI a lot, especially when it comes to like debugging, writing clean code. Like if I write something that looks like spaghetti code and I, give it to ChatGPT, it makes it clean, it makes it more understandable. And I think that's fine, honestly. You don't have to hate something that is just starting, because I mean, if you're hating AI now, what are we going to do 5 10 years when it's going to go mainstream, right? So I feel like the best thing is just to try to adapt and look for how you can use AI to enhance your skills. For me, I would always advise myself and other people that I know, try to benchmark your skills in a global standard, right? If there's somebody in the US or somebody in Europe that is using AI to do something, don't say, AI, nah, I'm just going to do what I'm going to do, right? So try to learn what that person is doing and try to understand why that person is doing it. And just go with the flow, because it's definitely going to help you. The fact that other people, other engineers are leveraging AI means that it's helping them do something, and that's something that you don't want to, miss out on. You always want to be in front of innovation and not behind it. So huge fan of AI.
That's awesome. I love that specifically too, what you said about, if other people are using it, there's a good chance that you can use it too. Like instead of being scared of it, figure out how to work that into your daily routine. And uh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome too. And I really like too that you specifically gave an example of how you're currently using it. Is that the main use, or are you, because I know that some designers have also said like, oh, we're using it almost as like an assistant where we can bounce ideas off of each other and, get their input on all of this. Are there any other workflows that you're testing out right now, or is the main one to help you with?
Yeah, I think the main one for me is mostly debugging and coding styles. As much as I'm reading a lot about like and learning about coding styles, AI is also
Yeah.
teaching me that debugging as well, and tooling, because there was this particular project that I worked on previously, and I didn't know anything about the project, how to set it up. So I just had to rely on AI for dependency issues, how to do this, how to do that. So it made my work easier, and it also made me understand certain things. And one thing that I do as an engineer is, if I want to learn something, I try to understand it in the most basic form. So you always see me on AI saying, "Explain this to me like I'm a 5 year old." I want it to be as beginner friendly as possible, and it does that for me. And moving forward, I can build on that knowledge rather than opening 7 8 Google tabs looking for like what I'm looking for. So
Yeah.
it's actually really helpful.
That's awesome. Yeah. And now, especially with Google, you open it up and you search for something and there's like 10 ads right there. And you're like, okay, who do I trust? What do I click on? Could somebody help me here?
Yeah, so thank you, ChatGPT.
I love that. And I especially, I think it's going to have such a big impact, especially on like the education space. More for like what you said too, of it helps people break down concepts in a really easy way. And it helps other people, figure out like, what are the post some loopholes in my strategy here. Like I've heard other marketers using it in that way too, of like, oh, hey, here's my plan. Am I missing anything? Like what's going on? And it can be like, oh, hey, yeah, maybe you should think about that too.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It helps.
Awesome. I love that. And my final question here for you today for the interview portion of our call is, if you have to give, or if you had to say like what the best skills a developer can take with them for the rest of their career. So even if AI comes and augments the workflows and whatnot, what are the best skills that developers can take with them for the rest of their careers?
I think I'll just mention one, and this one is going to scale 10, 15, 20 years. So I think it would be adaptability,
Mm,
having like a growth mindset to adapt to things that are changing, even the things that you're not so comfortable with. So you're learning a tool today, and tomorrow someone is like, "Oh, a new version is out," or "Oh, something better is out." Having that growth mindset to say, "Oh, I learned this, but something new is out, and I think I should get my hands on that." Although you need to understand like the fundamentals of whatever you're learning.
mhm.
So not, I know people that have stuck to. I don't want to drag like maybe PHP developers or anything, but yeah. But I know people that have, stuck to like the old style of doing things. They don't want
Mm,
to innovate. They don't want to look at what's in the market, right? So that's a very bad skill that you're going to have as a developer, and it's going to stunt your growth in terms of like being job ready or being like valuable in the job market. So adaptability, adapt to whatever is coming, There's this thing I learned from someone that I really look up to. She said that when she wakes up, what she does is she reads like research papers and, looking at what people are building, what people are trying to, you know, innovate. And that keeps her at the edge of what is happening in the world because you actually don't want to be left out. So, having a growth mindset, adapting to different tools, learning from other people, don't feel like you know a lot or don't actually feel like you know enough, right? Try to go for meetups, try to go for conferences, listen to people's talks, learn from them, connect with them on social media, and just keep growing and just keep learning. You learn to relearn, and I mean that way you always be at the verge of innovation.
I love that. I think that's a fantastic skill. Great advice too. Thank you very, very much for sharing that. And thank you for all of your wonderful answers so far to all of the questions that I've had. I promise you, I only have four more quick ones, and we have a fun little activity at the very end.
All
So
right.
these are just some rapid fire questions for you here. One is, why do you hate PHP developers? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just
I
kidding.
don't. I feel like PHP. I mean, Facebook still uses PHP, so I don't hate
There's
PHP developers.
there is no bad beef here with Chisom and PHP developers. I want to make that clear for everybody watching.
Sure.
If you had to guess, how many lines of code have developers written ever?
Wow. Say 1 million, 1 billion lines.
I like it. I like it. A
Yeah,
billion.
a lot or even more.
Awesome.
Even
Very
more.
cool. If you could describe going from design to development, if you could describe your process for that in just 3 words, what would those 3 words be for you?
Mm, okay, there's a silent moment here.
Of course.
Can I use sentences?
For sure. Sentences are great.
Okay. Design to development. I think the first thing is understanding user requirements. That's one.
Mhm.
Making rough sketches. That's two. Making rough sketches and getting like feedback from stakeholders or management.
Mhm.
That's two. Then three would be, writing lines of code. So on the
Perfect.
high level, yeah, that's what I'll do.
There you go. Start to finish. There we go. If you could describe your development process in just 1 word, what would that be?
Tough.
Tough. I like it.
Yeah.
Tough is where you learn the most. I like that a lot. And then my very final question here for you is, if you could describe yourself using just 1 word, what would that word be?
I'll say grit.
Ooh,
Yeah,
I like that. Grit,
green,
tough. You
regardless of, yeah, I'll still do it.
Awesome. I love that. Very cool. Thank you so much for sharing. Those are all of the questions I have. We've come now to my very favorite portion where I put your design skills to the test using
Wow,
Microsoft Paint.
terrible.
So we will truly we'll put to your test that see if developers do make good designers using this next section. So if you want, you're welcome to we can try sharing your screen and we can follow along
Okay,
with you. The idea here is to give you 2 minutes to recreate the Zeppelin logo using
okay.
Microsoft
Where is
Paint.
the Zeppelin logo? This balloon thing.
Yep, right over here, right.
Wow, and I have paint.
Yes, Microsoft Paint. That's the beauty of it, is it produces some
Wow,
amazing
this
recreations.
is going to be so terrible.
This is
I think
perfect.
I need to be
It,
looking at the logo.
yes, if you want to have some time, pull it up in the other window. That is a-okay. And then if you also want to, you can make the canvas a little bigger for you so you have more room. If you highlight over view, and then there should be an option for zoom, and then zoom to window, and then that should give you a bigger canvas to work with. Um,
Okay,
so you are all good to start whenever. You'll have 2 minutes from when your first pixel hits the canvas, and I'll keep your time. I'll let you know when we're running low and whatnot too.
okay, okay. We're not starting yet. Okay,
Nope. Yeah. We can take as much. You can take as much time as you need. I'm gonna check to see if they're.
okay, okay. This is going to look so terrible.
That is the beauty of it, is that we get so many different versions of them, and it's probably my favorite part of the show. So
Okay,
I
I
can
think I
see
could
this.
start.
Okay, perfect. We are ready whenever you are.
Okay. So it's like a big balloony thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, by the way, as I'm drawing, what's the meaning of Zeppelin?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think that it was the actual story, the origin behind the name was that our founders are Turkish. And so they were trying to find a word that meant the same in Turkish and in English as well too. And so
Okay.
Zeppelin was one of them, omelet was another one. And then I think there are a few others too that have a good translation there like that. But Zeppelin and omelet are two of our products. So that's sort of the backstory behind them is that it basically
Okay.
means the exact same thing in Turkish and in English.
Okay. Yep, these circles are gonna be a lot.
This is wonderful. This is very good so far. Honestly, much better than I could have done.
Okay, no, can I actually erase?
I think you can do Command Z, and you can even just
Okay.
like, yeah, I think you can back do it like
Okay. Funny how this reminds me of like growing up. I used a lot of paint,
that.
and paint is pretty old.
that's that's why I love it because for the nostalgia factor, but also because it sort of like it puts anybody, designer, developer, anybody like it kind of puts them on defense a little. They're like, wait, what's going on? I haven't used this tool in years, and it makes for a lot of fun, I will say. And you've got about a minute left too, so you can add whatever you'd like to it. Some people choose to add clouds and a little smiley face, but whatever your vision
Wow.
is.
Okay, I think I got a little bit of Leonardo something, the Mona Lisa guy,
This is beautiful. This should be hung in the Louvre, I think.
the painted Mona Lisa. Oh my
You've got about 30 seconds left. So whatever else you want to add, if you want to keep going with the color, this is beautiful. This is fantastic.
god. Okay, I think I still got my skill. Yeah, I think I'm done. Yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you very much for doing that. I'll ask you to save that and send it to me a little bit later, but you're welcome to stop sharing your screen, come back into the main call, and we can leave off with some final words of wisdom and thank you. So, Jisum, I just want to thank you so much for coming on our show here today. To my knowledge, you are our very first engineer that we've had on the show, so I really do appreciate you breaking that barrier and bringing the development side into our show. So, thank you very very much. Your answers were phenomenal, and so if you would like to leave out everybody with some last final words of wisdom. If you would like to tell us about your upcoming book or where you can get your current book, we would love to let you have that spot too.
Okay, so my first book is like a career book. I don't call it like a technical book because I made it very colorful and very interactive. So it was basically about me telling, my personal stories on how a lot of companies rejected me and how I finally found the perfect place. And so it's like it takes you on a journey. It's like a roadmap. Okay, how do you start applying? How do you prepare for tech interviews? How do you negotiate your offer? How do you handle rejections? How do you connect with people on LinkedIn to get referrals? So it's like a handbook for anybody that wants to work at big tech. So Meta, Netflix, Tesla, Microsoft, Facebook, Apple. So that book is I'm actually using my book now to look for, another job, and
Awesome.
that's really good. The tips are still very valid. And yeah, so you can get it on Amazon. It's called A Techie's Guide into Big Tech. It's on Amazon, and it's also on Seller if you're within like Africa. But if you're internationally, you can use Amazon. Then my second book, I haven't made the announcement yet, but yeah. So my
So,
second book is on data engineering for beginners.
okay.
So I got into data engineering as an Android developer. I didn't know anything about SQL, NoSQL, databases, all of that. So I came from a point of, confusion as to what exactly am I doing here. So that book answered would answer all the questions beginners have. So you might be coming into the industry as an engineer, as an analyst, or even as a CTO that just wants to understand how big data or data engineering works. So yeah, still writing, and it's definitely going to be a beautiful resource. Trust me.
Amazing. Well, best of luck to you. Good luck in the rest of your writing journey. I know that that's a very long and hard process too. So good luck to you on that. Thank you so much for sharing everything too, and thank you again for sharing your book too and all of your knowledge here with us today. I really
Thank
do appreciate it. Thank you again for being our first engineer on the show. This was fantastic, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. And to everybody listening, we try to host these shows every Wednesday. So if you're interested in learning more about this wonderful community that we're all a part of, please feel free to tune in around this time. But thank you all so much. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and we will see you soon. Take care.